From future Hollywood legends playing Native Americans to a deal that revolutionized the film industry forever, Winchester 73 is packed with bizarre secrets hiding behind its Old West facade. James Stewart's raw knuckles, a beloved horse he couldn't buy, and authentic trick shots that seem impossible, this classic Western holds more strange tales than a frontier saloon on Saturday night. Here are the 15 weird facts you didn't know about Winchester 73. Fact 1. Hollywood's first points deal changed everything. When Universal Studios approached James Stewart to star in Winchester 73 in 1949, they hit a major financial roadblock. Stewart wanted $200,000 for his services, which in today's money would be worth over $2 million. The studio simply couldn't afford it. They were already committed to another Stewart project called Harvey, and didn't have the budget to pay his full salary for both films. Most actors would have walked away from the deal, but Stewart's agent Lou Wasserman came up with a creative solution that would change Hollywood forever. Instead of receiving any upfront payment, Stewart agreed to take 50% of the film's profits. The deal also gave him creative control over choosing the director and his co-stars, which was practically unheard of at the time. This arrangement spread the payments over several years and qualified for lower capital gains tax rates rather than being taxed as regular income. Studio executives thought it was a terrible gamble. Louis B. Mayer at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer reportedly said it was like letting the lunatics take over the asylum. But Winchester 73 became a surprise box office hit, and Stewart ended up earning around $600,000 from the film, which was 3 times what he originally asked for. This marked the first confirmed time in the sound era that a major film actor received a percentage of a movie's receipts as compensation. The practice became known as getting points on a film. Stewart's unprecedented deal broke the traditional studio system, where actors were locked into long-term contracts with fixed salaries. Other major stars quickly followed his lead, fundamentally transforming the relationship between studios, agents, and actors for decades to come. Fact 2. Stewart's knuckles bled from practice. James Stewart took authenticity extremely seriously when preparing for his role in Winchester 73, and his body paid the price for that dedication. Director Anthony Mann later recalled being amazed by Stewart's commitment to looking like a genuine frontiersman who had spent years handling a Winchester rifle. Stewart didn't just show up on set and pretend to know what he was doing. He started preparing well in advance of filming, spending countless hours practicing with the actual rifle he would use in the movie. He researched the role extensively and practiced for hours every single day to make sure every movement looked natural and convincing. Mann described how magnificent Stewart looked walking down a street with the Winchester cradled in his arm, and how impressive he was when actually firing the weapon. But this level of authenticity came at a physical cost. The repeated motions of loading, firing, and handling the heavy rifle caused Stewart's knuckles to become raw and bloodied. The skin on his hands couldn't keep up with the constant friction and impact. Stewart refused to ease up on his training despite the pain. Mann later said that these sorts of dedication and sacrifices were exactly what helped make the film look so authentic and gave it a genuine sense of reality. An expert marksman from the Winchester Company named Herb Parsons assisted Stewart with his training and performed the more difficult trick shots required for the film. Stewart's willingness to endure actual physical pain to perfect his performance showed how determined he was to shed his previous image as a limited actor and prove he could handle more challenging and physically demanding roles in westerns. Fact 3. The trick shot was actually real. In one of the most memorable scenes in Winchester 73, James Stewart's character wins a shooting contest by performing a seemingly impossible feat. He shoots a bullet through the center hole of a metal washer that has a postage stamp placed over it while the washer is spinning through the air. When the washer falls to the ground apparently untouched, Stewart's character claims he must have shot through the hole. To prove it, a stamp is placed over the hole and the washer is tossed again. This time when it falls, there's a bullet hole through the stamp in the exact spot where the washer hole was located. Audiences watching the film assumed this was accomplished through camera tricks or special effects, but the truth is far more impressive. The shot was actually performed for real by a legendary marksman named Herb Parsons, who was known as the Wizard of Winchester. Parsons was flown from Florida to Hollywood specifically to serve as a technical consultant on the film and to perform the trick shooting that the script required. This was in the days before computer-generated imagery and advanced trick photography, so authenticity was the only option available to filmmakers. During filming, Herb Parsons stood off camera with his own Winchester Model 71 rifle and actually made the impossible shots while James Stewart fired blanks for the cameras. Parsons was so skilled that he could perform the washer shot consistently. The rifle Parsons used for these shots is now on permanent loan to the Cody Firearms Museum at the Buffalo Bill Historical Center in Wyoming, along with the actual necklace worn by the Native American character in the movie from which the washer was taken. Parsons' son later confirmed that his father genuinely made these shots without any trickery whatsoever. Fact 4. Rock Hudson's Native American. Debut. One of the most uncomfortable aspects of Winchester 73, when viewed through modern eyes, is the casting of a white actor to play a Native American tribal leader. Rock Hudson, who would go on to become one of Hollywood's biggest romantic leading men in the 1950s and 60s, appears in the film as Young Bull, described as an aggrieved Indian chief. This was one of Hudson's very first film roles at the beginning of his career when he was still a complete unknown. Hudson wore full makeup and war paint to transform himself into the character, following the then common Hollywood practice of casting white actors in Native American roles rather than hiring actual Native American performers. In the film, Young Bull is the character who obtains the prized Winchester rifle after killing and scalping an Indian trader who tried to cheat him with defective weapons. Young Bull and his warriors then pursue a wagon, attack a cavalry camp, and engage in a fierce battle before he is ultimately shot and killed by Stewart's character. The film does give Young Bull a relatively dignified speech about how white people constantly cheat and murder the indigenous population, which was somewhat progressive for its time. However, the practice of using white actors in brown-face makeup is now widely recognized as deeply problematic and offensive. Film critics and historians today point to this casting as a significant blemish on an otherwise influential Western. The film's treatment of race and Native Americans definitely feels of its time rather than ahead of it, representing the unfortunate standard Hollywood practice in 1950 that would take decades to change. Fact 5. Tony Curtis's last Anthony Curtis credit, Winchester 73, holds a small but significant place in Tony Curtis's career trajectory as the final film where he was credited under his birth-adjacent stage name. Curtis was born Bernard Schwartz in New York City in 1925 and had only recently signed with Universal Pictures when he landed a small role in this Western. The studio had changed his name from Bernard Schwartz to Anthony Curtis, taking Anthony from the novel Anthony Adverse and Curtis from Kurtz, a surname in his mother's family. Under contract at Universal, Curtis met other unknown actors who would later become famous, including his Winchester 73 co-star Rock Hudson, along with James Best, Julie Adams, and Piper Laurie. In Winchester 73, Curtis appears as a young cavalry soldier named Doane, who is besieged at a remote military encampment when it comes under attack by Native American warriors led by Young Bull. Curtis has only a few scenes and receives minimal screen time, but he's visible during the tense battle sequence where the soldiers defend themselves against the assault. The role was small and mostly uncredited by many sources, but it gave the young actor valuable experience working on a major production. Immediately after Winchester 73, Curtis appeared in another Western called Kansas Raiders in 1950. Beginning with that film, his billing officially became Tony Curtis, the name that audiences would recognize for the rest of his 6-decade career. He went on to achieve major stardom in the 1950s and early 1960s with memorable performances in films like Some Like It Hot and The Defiant Ones, for which he received an Academy Award nomination. Fact 6. Stewart's horse love story had no happy ending. James Stewart developed one of the most touching relationships in Hollywood history with a horse named Pie during the filming of Winchester 73 in 1949. Stewart personally selected Pie from the horses available for the production, and the connection between actor and animal was immediate and profound. Pie was a sorrel stallion owned by a woman named Stevie Myers, who trained horses for the film industry at the Myers & Wills stables in Lakeview Terrace, near Hanson Dam, in California's San Fernando Valley. By the end of filming Winchester 73, Stewart had become completely devoted to Pie. He tried repeatedly to purchase the horse from Stevie Myers, offering what must have been considerable sums of money, but Myers consistently refused every offer Stewart made. She would not sell Pie under any circumstances. Despite this rejection, Myers did something remarkably generous. She made Pie available to James Stewart for every single Western film he made over the next 20 years. Pie appeared in 17 Westerns with Stewart and also worked with other major stars like Kirk Douglas, Glenn Ford, and Audie Murphy. Stewart often spoke about Pie as one of the best co-stars he ever had, calling him a ham of a horse who would act for the cameras when they were rolling. Stewart claimed he could talk to Pie and the horse would understand him, and he swore their bond was almost human-like. In 1970, during the filming of the Cheyenne Social Club, Stewart's close friend, Henry Fonda, presented him with a watercolor painting of Pie as a gift. When Pie died that same year, Stewart arranged to have the horse buried at his California ranch, Vex 7. Shelley Winters hated playing second fiddle to a gun actress. Shelley Winters never fully understood or appreciated Winchester 73, and she made her feelings abundantly clear in later interviews. Winters played Lola Manners, a saloon pianist and former dance hall girl who becomes caught up in the action as the prized Winchester rifle passes through various hands across the frontier. While she gave what critics considered an excellent performance in the role, Winters felt completely overshadowed by the film's focus on the titular weapon. Her frustration boiled over in a quote that perfectly captured her irritation. She said, "Here you've got all these men, Stewart, Duryea, Hudson, McNally, Drake, and the rest of them all running around to get their hands on this goddamn rifle instead of going after a beautiful blonde like me." She concluded by asking, "What does that tell you about the values of that picture?" and wondered if anybody would have even noticed if she hadn't been in it. Winters was not entirely wrong in her assessment. The film's plot deliberately makes the Winchester rifle the central character, with human characters, including Stewart's protagonist, serving almost as supporting players in the gun's journey. Director Anthony Mann and writer Borden Chase structured the entire narrative around the rifle changing hands, with each new owner representing a different aspect of the Old West. Despite her complaints, Winters had another amusing behind-the-scenes concern during production. Both she and James Stewart preferred to be photographed from their left side, which created a potential conflict. Winters assumed that, as the star, Stewart would insist on his preferred angle, and she would be forced to compromise. She was pleasantly surprised when director Anthony Mann told her that Stewart wanted her to be shot from the left because he knew the situation was making her anxious. Fact 8. Fritz Lang almost directed a completely different movie. Winchester 73 could have been a radically different film if Fritz Lang had remained as director. Lang, a legendary filmmaker known for classics like Metropolis and M, had been attached to the project for several years in the late 1940s. He had directed 2 successful 20th Century Fox Westerns in the early 1940s, including The Return of Frank James in 1940 and Western Union in 1941, so he seemed like a natural fit. Lang's vision for Winchester 73 was much darker and more psychologically focused than what eventually reached the screen. He planned to make the rifle not just an important object, but literally Stewart's character's only source of strength, his only excuse for living, and his only means of survival. The quest to recover the stolen rifle would have been portrayed as a genuine matter of life and death in the most extreme psychological sense. However, Universal Pictures had a major problem with Lang beyond his creative vision. The studio did not want Lang to also produce the film through his own production company called Diana Productions. This was a deal breaker for Lang, who had successfully made previous films like Scarlet Street and Secret Beyond the Door through his company. When Universal refused to compromise on this issue, Lang dropped out of the project entirely. James Stewart then recommended Anthony Mann to replace him, having been impressed by Mann's work on a Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Western called Devil's Doorway. Mann brought in screenwriter Borden Chase to completely rewrite the script from scratch. Mann later said he didn't like Lang's property at all and only agreed to make the film if he could rewrite it completely with a new writer and new everything. Fact 9. A publicity stunt created modern gun collecting. Universal Pictures launched an innovative marketing campaign before Winchester 73 was even released, and it accidentally sparked an entirely new hobby that thrives to this day. The studio placed magazine advertisements seeking information about surviving examples of the rare 1-of-1000 model 1873 Winchester rifles. These were actual rifles that Winchester had produced and marketed as exceptionally accurate weapons, selecting roughly one rifle out of every 1,000 manufactured and giving it special treatment and embellishment before selling it at a premium price. Universal's advertisements made it clear they didn't want to purchase these rifles. They simply wanted to collect information about how many still existed and gather photographs and documentation. The first 20 people who responded with authentic 1-of-1000 rifles and provided notarized letters of ownership, serial numbers, and photographs would receive a brand new Winchester Model 1894 rifle as a reward, since the Model 1873 was no longer in production. The campaign was remarkably successful. It brought 22 previously unknown and forgotten 1-of-1000 Winchester rifles into the public spotlight. Some of these rifles had been sitting in attics, closets, and gun cabinets for decades without their owners realizing their historical significance. Universal released a press statement in fall of 1950 saying that, from obscurity, these unique 1-of-1000 Winchester Model 1873 rifles had graduated within only 5 months into one of the most sought-after collector's items in the country. The statement noted that even ordinary Model 1873s had doubled in price in just a few months. Gun collecting historians directly credit this publicity campaign with fostering the popularity of antique gun collecting as we know it today. Fact 10. Audiences gasped at Stewart's violent transformation. One specific scene in Winchester 73 shocked audiences so profoundly that it became a defining moment in James Stewart's career transformation. Throughout the 1930s and early 1940s, Stewart had built his reputation playing friendly, wholesome, aw-shucks characters with boyish charm. His roles in films like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and It's a Wonderful Life established him as one of Hollywood's most likable and gentle leading men. But Winchester 73 revealed something darker lurking beneath that amiable surface. In the scene that caused the shocked reaction, Stewart's character, Lynn McAdam, confronts the outlaw Waco Johnny Dean, played by Dan Duryea, in a saloon. McAdam gets the jump on Waco and suddenly, violently, slams him face down onto the bar while brutally twisting his arm behind his back. The physical aggression itself was surprising enough, but what truly disturbed audiences was the look on Stewart's face during the assault. His eyes blazed with pure hatred and rage, showing a capacity for violence that nobody expected from the beloved actor. Screenwriter Borden Chase later recalled that when the film was given a sneak preview, there had even been some nervous laughter in the audience during this scene because people simply couldn't process what they were seeing. Many moviegoers audibly gasped in shock. At the time of release, there was even ridicule from some members of the press about the idea of James Stewart, often called the Thin Man, playing a tough Western hero. But this one violent moment erased all doubts about Stewart's ability to portray dangerous, psychologically complex characters. Director Alfred Hitchcock recognized this neurotic dimension in Stewart and used it to great effect in films like Vertigo later in the decade. Fact 11. Modern highways visible in the Old West. Despite the filmmaker's careful attention to period authenticity in most aspects of Winchester 73, one major continuity error made it into the final cut of the film and remains visible to eagle-eyed viewers today. During the climactic shootout scene near the end of the movie, James Stewart's character, Lynn McAdam, confronts his brother Dutch Henry Brown in a rocky, desolate landscape that's supposed to represent the untamed American frontier of 1876. The two brothers engage in a tense gunfight among the bare rocks, trading ricocheting bullets until Dutch makes a fatal mistake and Lynn finally achieves his revenge. It's meant to be one of the most isolated and primitive locations in the entire film, emphasizing how far the pursuit has taken them from civilization. However, if you look carefully at the far distance in the upper left portion of the screen during these final shootout sequences, you can clearly see billboards and a modern highway. When slowed down, frame by frame, the 20th century intrusion becomes even more obvious. This wasn't the only anachronism that slipped past the editors. In an earlier fight scene outside the saloon in Tascosa, a modern power pole is visible in the upper right of the frame. These kinds of mistakes were more common in films shot on location in the 1940s and 50s, when production crews had less control over their environments and couldn't digitally remove unwanted elements in post-production like modern filmmakers can. The irony is particularly striking in Winchester 73 because director Anthony Mann and James Stewart worked so hard to make everything else look authentic. Stewart practiced until his knuckles bled, and they hired expert marksman Herb Parsons to ensure the shooting scenes looked realistic, yet nobody noticed the highway in the background until after the film was released. Fact 12. The same Native Americans die repeatedly. Movie productions in 1950 often reused shots and extras to save money and time, but Winchester 73 took this practice to a rather obvious extreme during its climactic Native American attack sequence. The scene depicts young Bull and his warriors assaulting a small cavalry encampment where several main characters have taken refuge for the night. It's meant to be a fierce, chaotic battle with numerous casualties on both sides. However, careful viewers will notice something very strange about the Native American casualties during this extended action sequence. Two warriors wearing distinctive costumes that make them easily identifiable appear to die multiple times throughout the battle. One brave wears a particularly simple costume consisting of just a breechcloth and a single feather, making him stand out from the other warriors. Both of these distinctively dressed braves are shown getting shot in the heart, falling dramatically off their horses, and dying at exactly the same time in what appears to be a spectacular moment of synchronized death. Then, impossibly, these same two warriors appear again later in the sequence and die again, this time filmed from a different camera angle. They continue dying repeatedly throughout the battle, shot from various perspectives to create the illusion of multiple casualties. By the time the attack ends and the surviving warriors retreat, there are only two bodies on the ground that match these particular braves' unique costumes. The filmmakers apparently hoped that the chaos and speed of the battle would prevent audiences from noticing that they were recycling the same stunt performers and the same death scenes over and over. It's the kind of corner cutting that was common in Hollywood westerns of the era, but it's particularly noticeable in Winchester 73 because the two warriors' costumes are so distinctive and memorable. Fact 13. Wyatt Earp was 20 years too old. Will Geer's portrayal of legendary lawman Wyatt Earp in Winchester 73 involves a significant historical age discrepancy that becomes glaringly obvious when you do the math. The film is explicitly set in 1876, with the action taking place in Dodge City, Kansas during the town's centennial celebration on July 4th. This date is mentioned multiple times throughout the movie and is central to the plot, as the shooting contest for the prized Winchester rifle is being held specifically to commemorate America's 100th birthday. The real Wyatt Earp was born in 1848, which means he would have been approximately 28 years old during the events depicted in the film. This was actually close to the correct age, as the real Earp did serve as a lawman in Dodge City during this general time period. However, Will Geer was born in 1902, making him around 48 years old when Winchester 73 was filmed in 1949 and released in 1950. That's a 20-year age gap between the actor and the character he's supposed to be portraying. Geer, Himself reportedly felt that he was badly miscast in the role, which suggests he was aware of the age problem and perhaps other aspects of the character that didn't suit him. The film presents Earp as an older, somewhat weary, almost bumbling authority figure who seems tired of dealing with troublemakers and just wants to keep the peace during the town's big celebration. This characterization doesn't match the historical Wyatt Earp, who at 28 would have been a young man still building his reputation as a lawman before his later famous involvement in the gunfight at the OK Corral in Tombstone, Arizona. Fact 14. Stewart's left-profile kindness. Surprised Winters' behind-the-scenes tensions over vanity and camera angles are common in Hollywood, but James Stewart's generous behavior during the filming of Winchester 73 revealed his character in a touching way. Shelley Winters discovered early in production that she and her leading man shared the same preference when it came to how they wanted to be photographed. Both actors felt that their left side was their better side and wanted to be filmed from that angle as much as possible. This created a potential problem during scenes where they appeared together, particularly in the romantic moments between their characters. In film terminology, if two actors are facing each other and both want to show their left profile to the camera, it's physically impossible to accommodate both of them simultaneously. Someone has to compromise and show their less preferred side. Winters naturally assumed that since Stewart was the star of the film and had significant creative control thanks to his unprecedented profit-sharing deal, he would insist on his preferred angle and she would be forced to turn to her right. As she later recalled, a couple of left profiles don't make for a convincing love scene when both actors are staring off in the same direction. Since he was the star, she knew who would be told to turn right, and she thought it would definitely be her. But one morning, director Anthony Mann came to Winters with surprising news. He told her that Jimmy Stewart wanted her to be shot from the left because he knew the whole situation was making her anxious. What made this gesture even more meaningful was that Stewart never said a word to Winters directly about his decision. He simply told the director privately that he wanted her to have her preferred angle, demonstrating a quiet kindness and lack of ego that was apparently characteristic of the beloved actor. Fact 15. The villain kept a photograph that made no sense. Winchester 73 contains a plot device so illogical that even casual viewers might find themselves scratching their heads when they notice it. The film's antagonist, Dutch Henry Brown, is eventually revealed to be Lynn McAdam's brother, whose real name is Matthew McAdam. Dutch shot their father in the back when the old man refused to shelter him after a robbery, and Lynn has been pursuing Dutch across the frontier ever since, driven by a burning need for revenge. Given this backstory, Dutch is an outlaw on the run who knows his brother is relentlessly hunting him with the intention to kill him. Dutch moves from hideout to hideout, constantly staying one step ahead of Lynn while committing various crimes. Yet despite being a wanted man who betrayed and murdered his own father, Dutch apparently carries with him everywhere he goes a pristine, formal family photograph showing himself, Lynn, and their father together in happier times. Even more bizarrely, Dutch doesn't just keep this photograph hidden away. He has it prominently displayed in his very newest hideout, where anyone visiting could easily see it. From a logical standpoint, this makes absolutely no sense. Why would a ruthless outlaw and patricide keep and display a photograph that could identify him and his connection to the man hunting him? The answer becomes obvious when you look at the plot mechanics. The photograph needs to be there so that Lola Manners, the saloon girl played by Shelley Winters, can see it and recognize the family resemblance. This allows High Spade, Lynn's loyal companion, to later deliver the big reveal to Lola that Dutch and Lynn are brothers, explaining why Lynn is so obsessed with hunting Dutch down. The photograph exists purely as a convenient plot device to allow this information to be discovered and shared with other characters.